If you want great sound, tolerable volume, and cool looks for your 2015 to 2020 3.5 EcoBoost F-150, and you don't want to spend a ton of money, then the Flowmaster FlowFX dual rear exit we have here will be just the right choice for your truck. This is a great way to get some more attitude on a daily driven truck in a way that isn't going to drive you nuts. Accordingly, we're going to give this one a pretty strong 3 out of 5 on our loudness meter. This is what Flowmaster describes as a moderately aggressive sound level, so it's definitely louder than your stock system, but not as loud as a straight pipe. It's a great balance of all the good things you want from exhaust with really none of the detractors. Just a quick note on fitment before we dive in. This is designed to fit 2015 to 2020 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150s, excluding Raptor, and 2019 to 2020 limited models. In stock form, the 3.5 EcoBoost doesn't sound like, well, much of anything. You just get a low muted grumble and maybe some turbo noise when you really bury the throttle. But when you get into aftermarket exhaust for these engines, you'll find it's very easy to go overboard on noise. If you want a cool look and a nice sound that won't irritate you or your passengers, then the FlowFX is your system. As you heard from the clips at the beginning of the video, this is not super loud, but it gives these trucks a nice injection of character. It's decidedly more volume than stock, but you get a pretty deep tone, and it just gets a bit more loud and a little raspy as the revs increase. It makes these trucks sound a bit like a last-gen Ford GT, which is not a bad thing at all, and it's definitely a step up from the factory system. Flowmaster again describes this one as moderately aggressive. What you're going to find here is a 3-inch diameter exhaust up to the muffler, and then 2.5-inch piping all the rest of the way back. And since this replaces your factory muffler and resonator, you get additional flow versus stock, meaning that you may see or feel an increase in power and response. That increased flow also means less back pressure, which is important for a turbocharged engine. Now, we're not going to be dyno testing this one, and it's important to remember that we're not talking about huge power gains here, just small ones that complement other breather mods and perhaps gives you some better response. Now, inside the cabin, again, you're going to hear this more than you would your stock system. Instead of hearing a muted engine noise, you're going to get some actual exhaust sound, but it won't be so loud that you can't carry on a conversation or enjoy your favorite tunes. It's also not going to produce tons of drone either. And although Flowmaster calls the FlowFX muffler a straight-through unit, which it really kind of is, you can tell that there's quite a bit of packing here. Hence that more mild tone as compared to something like their Outlaw series. So again, this is going to do a good job of keeping that noise at a nice pleasant level to make for a really nice driving experience. For a daily driven truck or one that sees a lot of highway miles, that's a great benefit. And the look, well, this is the classic street truck type of appearance with the black tips poking out just behind each of your rear wheels. It's subtle, but if you know what to look for, you're going to clock this right away. And once you start it up, there will be no question that your truck has a little something extra going on. Construction here is all T409 grade stainless steel, which is all mandrel bent. Again, the piping is 3-inch in diameter going into the muffler, where it splits into 2.5-inch tubing all the way out to the tips. Those tips are 4.5-inch T304 stainless steel, finished in a ceramic black coating. Now, the 409 stainless construction here is going to give you plenty of resistance to rust and corrosion, and that construction means that this will flow better than your stock system as well. Pricing comes in around $1,050, so it falls in the middle of the category. It's a good price for a performance-oriented dual exhaust, and the extra little flair here with the tips means that it's worth a little bit of extra money in my book. You're also saving quite a bit versus a full T304 stainless system, and you still get a good sounding exhaust that's going to last you a while. Definitely makes it an attractive offering. Installation for this one gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and it should take you around 2 hours to get it all done. Now, everything you need is included in the kit, and it's designed to bolt right in place of your factory exhaust using all your factory exhaust hanger locations, so you don't need to modify anything permanently on your truck. You also get an extension in the kit for the inlet pipe should you need the extra length to accommodate for a larger cab and or bed length. Instructions on which trucks need it are included in the box as well, and we're going to go over that a bit more when we head out to the shop. Speaking of which, let's head on out there now and we'll walk you through the install process.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, rubber mallet, exhaust hanger remover tool, 14mm wrench, an extension, 15mm socket, and 14 and 17mm swivel sockets, and a pry bar.
What's up, guys? Today we're installing an exhaust on our F-150. First, we're going to watch a quick uninstall video showing you how to remove your factory exhaust, and I'll meet you back here for the install.
So first things first, we got to get rid of our cap So first things first, we got to get rid of our factory catback, and we're going to start by lubricating all of the hangers. And then there's two 13mm bolts on this flange here that we're going to undo as well. That will allow us to push the whole exhaust back and drop it in one big piece. If you are working on the ground, you might have to loosen that clamp right there or bring out the saw to cut this into a couple pieces. But again, since we're on the lift, we're going to take it out in one big piece.
So now with our factory exhaust off, first thing we're going to do is install our front pipe. Now depending on your cab and bed configuration, you may have to make a cut on the end of the front pipe, or you might have to use an extension pipe, or you might have to trim some off the extension pipe. Now we have the super cab with the 6.5 foot bed, so this will just require this whole front pipe, no extension pipe, but follow the directions for your specific truck. I'm going to raise this up, put a pole jack there. That's just going to support the weight of it for right now until we get a hanger on. And then we'll take the new bolts included in the kit, slide that through from the back with a flat washer. And then on the other side, we got another flat washer, a lock washer, and a nut. And then same thing on the other side of this flange. And then we're going to need a 14mm socket and wrench to tighten these down. I like to go back and forth to tighten this flange down evenly and straight. Now next we can install our hanger clamp. Now depending on your cabin bed configuration, this might go into a different hanger. I'm using this one back here since this one's a little close to where our clamp's going to be that goes on our muffler. So I'm going to get that slid onto my pipe. Now I'm just going to take a rubber mallet, give it some taps. Rotate it up and into that isolator. And now you can take a 15mm socket and tighten that down. Now next we can install our muffler. So I'm going to take a 3-inch clamp and slide that onto our muffler inlet. And then raise that up, slide it onto a pipe. And then just straighten out your muffler, make sure it's level. And then take a 15mm socket to tighten down your clamp. And then I'm just going to slide our 2.5-inch clamps onto the muffler outlet. And then we can work on our over-axle pipes. Next we can install our passenger side over-axle pipe. So that's going to be going into our factory hanger, as well as the right side of our muffler outlet. And now we can go back to our clamp, slide that in place, and take a 15mm socket, tighten it down. And now we can get our driver's side over axle pipe in place. And this is going into the hanger up on the frame there. So just wiggle that in. And then same thing, 15mm socket, tighten down that clamp. Next we need to add a hanger to the driver's side for our tailpipe. So right behind the shock, we're gonna come just right over to the right and use this bottom circular hole. So we've got this plate. We're gonna have a bolt and a flat washer going through this plate and then coming through the frame from the opposite side. And then add your hanger to there and then put a flat washer, lock washer, and nut on there. And now I'm going to leave that loose for right now so we have a little bit of maneuverability to get our pipe hanger into this isolator. And now we can install the crossover pipe going from our driver's side over axle pipe back to this hanger. So I'm going to get a clamp and slide that on my pipe first. And then I'm going to get this rod into that isolator that we just installed. And then swing it up to connect to our over axle pipe. Once you get it started on there, you can use a rubber mallet if you need to get the leverage you need to slide it over. And now slide your clamp into place and tighten it down with a 15mm socket. And now come back to your hanger that we added and take a 14mm socket and wrench, tighten that down. Now once you get to this point, we can install that elbow that's going to kick our tip out to the side. So slide the clamp on, slide that onto your crossover pipe. And now at this point I like to get my tip and slide it on just to test fit and see where we want it to land. And right about there is looking pretty good. So I'll take that back off, get my clamp in place, and 15mm socket. And now we'll just slide that tip back on. So then just adjust this to have as much or as little poke as you'd like. I'm gonna keep mine right about there. And then you're just gonna grab a 14mm socket and wrench and tighten down your tip. Just give it a good tug, make sure it's not going anywhere, and you can do that exact same thing on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Flowmaster FlowFX dual exhaust system with black tips, side exit, for your 2015 to 20 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150, excluding the Raptor, and the 19 to 20 F-150 Limited. Thank you for watching, and for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.